All right, so starting with the 15-minute Euro US dollar. Right now what we have, first thing, what's my view? Now obviously this is a very large chart, larger than I would use. In fact, I'd have about 4 charts normally in this single space. And I'd be scanning simultaneously 4 different time frames. But in essence, what I want to be able to do here is determine, am I in a distribution cycle or am I in a markdown cycle? That's probably the first thing we need to determine, because we were in distribution. I'd say now we're in markdown. So I've got a downtrending market cycle right now. The other thing I've got to notice right off the bat, and this is all pretty simple, easy to notice, is I've got what could become a triple bottom down here at the 4,300 level, the major psych level. The next thing I want to do, after I've noticed this support level, is determine where my resistance would be, where my correction would be. Again, I have to reiterate, this is a large chart, okay, so it's going to be spaced out a little bit differently, but make sure when you're looking at a 15-minute chart, you're looking at about 3 to 5 days. And you can see here I've got plenty of look back. I'm looking at about the 16th, that'll work, okay? If the chart was smaller, obviously it'd be a different view, but 3 to 5 days. All right, so what are the ways that I can determine where my correction point would be since I have a downtrending market? You know, obviously my first would be to use the bottom line of the wave at 43.56. I could use the psychological level at 43.50. If you're a fan of Fibonacci, you could pull a last major move, assuming this is the low, which we do not have confirmation of yet. But assuming this is the low, the 50% is also at the bottom line of the wave. The 38.2 is sitting at about 43.46. Okay? So somewhere between 43.40 and 43.55, let's say 43.45 and 43.55, we're going to find resistance. And that's where we could potentially short a correction within this downtrend. This is just a 15-minute chart, so don't get too hung up here. Let's go to the 30. Oh, by the way, pattern-wise, in a markdown cycle, I want down channels. I want falling wedges. Okay, those are the types of patterns that I want to focus in on. All right, 30-minute chart. So for this 30-minute chart here, what's my look back? It's 1 to 2 weeks. Okay, it's 1 to 2 weeks. And my market cycle here, my market cycle here is, I'd say, distribution. So if I've got a distribution chart working for me here that's trying to maybe transition to a markdown, the first thing I need to assess is this. The process of triage is a comparative process, okay? If we were doctors in an emergency room, we're assessing who needs attention first, right? Well, since we're traders and we're assessing charts, we want to know who needs our attention first. Who could be the trade that's going to trigger. Okay, that's the triage process. That's the thinking behind it. It's a comparative process. I'm comparing the Euro-US dollar to itself across the psychology of different time frames. So I'm always focused in on which one is giving me the clearest reading of psychology, which one's giving me clarity of market cycles, because market cycles reflect psychology. So clarity of psychology, that's what I'm focusing in on as I'm jumping from the 15 to the 30, as we go from the 30 to the 60 and so forth. All right? So clarity of psychology is not all that we're interested in, though. And by the way, if I was comparing the 15 to the 30, I'd say the 30 is probably giving me a little bit more clarity, a little bit more definitive look at this downtrend than the 30 is. I wasn't sure if we're in distribution or markdown here. So I'll move on to the 60. Okay? The 60, am I in accumulation or distribution? You look at the angles of the wave, the clock angle of the wave, the 3 lines. You know, we're looking at, let me just mention this while I've got the window up. Part of the plugin that I've got running, this AutoChartist plugin, allows me to control how many patterns AutoChartist will actually plot on my chart. I've got it set to 2 emerging patterns and 1 complete. I can change it to one of each, whatever it is. So if you find your charts are getting too busy, go ahead and make the adjustment. So again, clarity of psychology. I still say the 15 from that comparative triage standpoint is still giving me the best, clearest look. Okay? Another aspect of triage is also proximity. So once I get the clarity of one of the things that I want to consider as I'm looking for that clarity of psychology, which one of these time frames has the clearest market cycle, I also want to consider what's the realistic nature of the trade actually triggering.